For centuries, a powerful spiritual current has flowed through the heart of the Islamic world. It didn't just build mosques or write laws. It wrote breathtaking poetry of divine love, created hypnotic music that lifts the soul, and designed spaces for deep inner peace. This is the world of Sufism, the mystical path of Islam. And at its center are the Sufi masters, the poets, teachers, and philosophers who use not just words but art itself as a bridge to the divine. Today, we'll explore how these masters shaped a unique vision of philosophy and then brought it to life through universal art. The philosophy, the journey to the one. To understand their art, we must first understand their goal. For Sufi masters, the ultimate truth was Tawhid, the absolute oneness of God. But for them, this wasn't just a theological idea to believe in. It was an experience to live. Their entire philosophy is a map for a spiritual journey. It starts with divine love, a burning, longing love for God that is the only true fuel for the path. The traveler then seeks rifah, or direct, intimate knowledge of God, which is deeper than any book learning. The journey's final stage is Fana, a concept meaning annihilation. It's the dissolving of the selfish ego, the small self, to find oneself immersed in the ocean of divine presence. Imagine a drop of water vanishing into the sea, only to realize it has become part of something infinite. The great philosopher Ibn Arabi called this reality the oneness of being. He taught that all of creation is a reflection of divine names and attributes. So, the seeker isn't looking outside for God, but learning to see the divine reality within and behind everything. But how do you explain such an intense, personal experience to others? How do you teach it? The Sufi masters found their answer not in dense philosophical textbooks for the few, but in beautiful, universal art for the many. The art, a language for the invisible. Sufi art is not art for art's sake. It is functional. It is a tool designed to do one thing, to induce a spiritual state, to quiet the mind and open the heart. Let's see how this works. First, poetry and metaphor. When rational language fails to describe divine love, you need metaphor. The Persian master Rumi became one of the world's most beloved poets by doing just this. In his verses, God is the beloved. The soul's longing is that of a drunken, lovesick friend. His famous Masnavi is not just a book, it's a guided tour of the heart's landscape. Another poet, Farid, wrote The Conference of the Birds. It's an allegory where birds travel through 7 valleys to find their king, the Simorgh. At the end, only 30 birds remain, and they realize that, which means 30 birds, is themselves. A beautiful tale of discovering the divine within the community of seekers. Second, music and movement. For Sufis, music is the food of the soul. The devotional singing known as Qawwali, pioneered by saints like Amir Khusrau, uses rhythmic clapping, drums, and passionate lyrics to break down barriers. Its goal is wajd, a state of spiritual ecstasy where the listener forgets themselves. Then there is the famous Sema, the ceremony of the whirling dervishes from the order of Rumi. The whirling is not a performance. It is a living meditation. The dancer's right hand is turned up to receive grace from heaven. The left hand is turned down to send that grace to the earth. As they turn, they let go of the self to become a vessel of divine love. Finally, architecture and calligraphy. Sufi lodges called khanqahs were built as sanctuaries. They used gardens, flowing water, and geometric patterns to create an atmosphere of sakina, deep, tranquil peace. Walking into one is designed to calm your spirit the moment you enter. And on the walls, you would see calligraphy, the sacred words of the Quran or Sufi poetry written in stunning, flowing scripts. This practice itself is a meditation, transforming the word into a visual form of divine beauty. These ideas didn't appear from thin air. They were nurtured by key figures who built bridges between worlds. Al-Ghazali, a towering 11th century scholar, performed a monumental task. He used his sharp intellect to reconcile formal Islamic law and theology with the intimate, personal experience of the Sufis. He made the mystic's path respectable and central to mainstream Islamic life. Then came Ibn Arabi, the great master of philosophical Sufism. He provided the deep intellectual framework, like the oneness of being, that explained the experiences the poets were describing. And finally, Rumi and artists like Amir Khusrau. They translated that deep philosophy into a language the heart could understand, through poems, songs, and ceremonies that anyone, scholar or farmer, could feel and connect with. They built the orders that kept these practices alive. So, what was the result of this fusion of deep philosophy and accessible art? The Sufi masters created a spiritual culture that was both elite and popular. Their lodges became community centers, schools, and hospitals. Their message of inner love helped spread Islam peacefully across continents like Asia and Africa, because they adapted and spoke through local art forms. And their legacy is powerfully alive today. When you hear the ecstatic songs of Qawwali by the late Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, you are hearing 700-year-old spiritual technology. When you see a quote from Rumi on a poster or in a modern song, you are seeing a mystic's words crossing every cultural border. They prove that the deepest truths about love, the self, and the divine don't just belong in dusty books. They can be sung. They can be danced. They can be lived. They gave the world a timeless gift, a map to the inner universe, written in the heart's own language.